The No Nonsense Roundtable. It's a weekly show broadcast on Rochester, New York's 50,000-watt iHeart radio station, News Radio Wham 1180. The host, Dom Genova, interviews guests from all walks of life, all with amazing stories to tell. What you are about to hear is a recording of a previous broadcast without the breaks and commercials. Now, here's host Dom Genova.
Well, welcome everybody to another edition of the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova, your host, every Saturday here on News Radio Wham 1180, or you can get all the past shows on NoNonsenseRoundtable.com as a YouTube or an iHeart podcast. And we have somebody, if we have to talk about people we know and we want to know more about, here is a guy that everybody knows. And again, I think it's for your third visit, I think.
Well, at least our second, maybe our third. I'll have to think about that. But I appreciate the return offer to join you, Dom.
Well,
thank you.
Well, it's always a delight to have you. And I think by now everybody has recognized your voice, but it is the wonderful Mr. Kevin Williams. How are you?
It is good to be here. You know, even this day, several years after my TV career came to a close, I run into folks and, they think I look familiar. They're not sure. And then when I start to speak, you're that guy that used to tell us the weather on the TV. So it's nice to be here. Thank you.
Well, the difference between you and me is that you have a voice for broadcasting and you have the looks for broadcasting.
No.
Which I sorely do not.
No, you're being too harsh, and I've become a little grayer in recent years. So we press on.
We press on. So we're going to talk. We talked a little bit before the show about all the different things we can talk about, but. Let's go over again. I always love the story of asking people, remind people what you wanted to do when you were a boy. I mean, was it a weathercaster? Let's go into that. I love that story.
Well, you know what? The truth is, I've always told young people as I've grown in the profession, try to follow your passion. And I've been passionate about weather since the days when I was a toddler. My mom tells me, there was a thunderstorm that was striking our region on Long Island where I was growing up, and I was so enthralled by it. She put me in my playpen out on the porch, and I marveled at the storm. Now, don't do this today. That's not a wise idea because lightning can strike. But I survived that, and I had my little forays into football. I was a place kicker and a wide receiver in high school and for a little while in college, but that was not going to lead to any professional success, I didn't think. And there were a couple of other things of my interest, but it was always weather, Dom. It always came back to weather. And that's why I've been so blessed professionally to follow my passion. To make a comfortable living doing it, and along the way meeting some wonderful people and learning a great deal. So I am immensely blessed professionally, having followed my passion from a very early age.
Well, we talk a lot on this show about people that have followed a direction and not necessarily a destination. So it's sort of like you want to be involved in weather no matter what it was. It's not like you want to be a broadcast weather guy, right?
Exactly. I mean, it turned out that I was able to take my college education and my abilities there and to form a company and to develop forecasting. And yes, you get known mostly from TV or radio, but I've been able to branch out through the many years in a lot of different venues and avenues that took me into different paths that all involve meteorology. So you might be known on TV, but that's just a tiny fraction of what a meteorologist can do, which makes my life so interesting because there's so many, it's as diverse as the very weather itself in terms of the application of the skills you learn as a meteorologist.
And I think that's something that we have to direct our children in advice, is that point yourself in a direction, not necessarily a destination, because you never know how that's going to turn out. If you're in an environment that you love, well, you love the environment no matter what.
Right. Don't make that path early on too narrow. Be as broad as you can. And then as you go, you start to accumulate more knowledge, more experience, and then you can fine tune, what you'd like to do.
So what's the first thing that you actually did as a meteorologist? What's the first thing that you made enough money to
Well, my first broadcasting gig was in 1976. It was a gig called Weather by Williams after the Pledge of Allegiance at Comac High School South. Where on the morning announcements, I did the forecast for Comac and Dix Hills and vicinity. Okay. That's where my social media presence, Weather by Williams, that's where that comes from. But in terms of professional paying experience, during my college days, I was hired by a weather service in New York City. And during intersession breaks, holidays, I was on the radio for this weather service based at JFK Airport. I was not ready for the job. I was way too young to do it, but they put me down, you'll appreciate this, on major market radio stations across the country, including WYNY, which was the NBC-owned FM station, the owned and operated station in New York City. Mm-hmm. And there I am on weekends on one of the number one stations in America and multiple other major markets as an 18, 19-year-old kid. I was only making, $3.50 an hour, I think, at the time. But nevertheless, it was my first gig. And it was, I just got thrown in the pool, had to swim, and I learned greatly on how to service multiple dozens of radio stations across the country in a single shift. And to remember, okay, I'm right now in Boston. 2 minutes I'm in New York City, then I'm in Cincinnati, then I'm in Miami, and remember, keep, in your mind straight. Okay, who am I talking to? What's the big thing going on? Is it the Red Sox or the Yankees? Based on the market. And then, by the way, get the weather right as well.
So let me get this straight. So you're doing this broadcast for a number of different markets from Long Island, from JFK or whatever. Right. And was that 7 days a week or?
No, I was mostly fill in.
Okay.
But during the summer, it was a regular gig. It was weekends or sometimes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes, a full week or two. So I was a fill in person, but that's what I'm saying. I wasn't, are you kidding me? There are people who work for decades to get to New York City to be on the radio, right? Yeah. And I'm 19 years old, and I'm fresh out of Weather by Williams at Comac High School South, and now I'm on, major market stations across the country. But it was, I learned so much. So when it came time to start my business and to accumulate a radio network of my own, it was almost like secondhand by then.
You evoked a memory of my time in on Long Island. I was born and raised in Glencoe, which isn't too far from Comac. Mm-hmm. And when I was a little boy, you know what my biggest weather fear was?
No.
Tornadoes.
Oh. Well,
you don't get tornadoes.
You don't.
No.
You don't. But there is a fear of tornadoes that's legitimate.
It was the damn Wizard of Oz. That's what did it. Traumatized me.
Oh, gosh.
That's it. And, little did I know that. We don't.
Yeah, Long Island is
not really.
Hurricanes, but not so much the tornadoes.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing about it too is that you think about years ago, talk about hurricanes. I guess there was a hurricane, 1935 or whatever it was?
1938, the Long Island Long Island Express, it was called, because they didn't name them then. And it moved right through Suffolk, then into Rhode Island, Connecticut. And it was one of the most deadly, catastrophic hurricanes in the history of the United States. And it was known, again, they didn't name them then. It was the Long Island Express for the Expressway. Mm-hmm. And that later came to be known. And it was one of the most deadly. It's one of the biggest storms in the modern history of this country.
Well, it couldn't have been predicted very well because you didn't have the technology back then.
Yeah, I don't think I wasn't quite on the ball then. But no, we did.
Well, you're older than you look.
Yeah, I'm a little older.
Yeah.
But no, of course,
younger than you look.
No satellites, no radar, no real good radar. Mm-hmm. So the technology didn't allow, and so I'm not sure how much warning there was. You had ship reports, this kind of thing. But no, the technology is so different now. But back then, boy, it was very hard to.
I often think about that. You're in Key West, and it's like 1820 or something like that, and all of a sudden the world has changed.
Right.
He had no idea, right?
Exactly. I mean, there are hurricanes that probably were going on out in the Atlantic back in the day that we don't even know even existed, which is why you really can't compare years on hurricanes, because we've learned so much, and now we've got eyes in the sky that continually scan the oceans for burgeoning thunderstorms and that become hurricanes.
So we're about ready to head into a break, but I have 2 words for you. Mm-hmm. And, they're good words. They're 2 words, but maybe not good words. But I'm going to talk about that when we come back. Well, welcome back. We're talking to Kevin Williams, the famous meteorologist. Oh, you are. I mean, come on. Yeah, people know you. They know you. They love you. They listen to your voice and they know you. Oh my God, it sounds like a song. So here are the two words, good, bad, or indifferent, that I'd like to hit you with is give me your opinion, once again, because I love this, on climate change.
Oh, climate change. Oh, wow. Well, here's what I would start and tell you, Dom. First of all, I am a former Boy Scout. I am have been a member of the Audubon Society, a volunteer for the Nature Conservancy. I believe we should be good stewards of the planet. And to that end, my daughter and I have had a compost heap in the backyard for years, and I'm a bird watcher, and we really take great pleasure out of planting a yard full of trees and plants for the animals. But we're misguided in what we're trying to do in terms of changing the climate. You can't change the weather by raising taxes. You can, though, mitigate for the change in the weather. Now, the climate is always changing. It always has. No one can say there's not climate change, right? It's always been. We were under a mile of ice 18,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. But the weather's going to do what it's going to do, frankly. And so my view has always been, we should be, if we're going to invest in dealing with it, we should invest in infrastructure. We should be thoughtful in our planning. I learned long ago, if you build in a floodplain, what's going to happen eventually?
Flood.
It's going to flood. And so, it's great to be on the coast. In Florida, sure, everyone wants to be on the Gulf or the Atlantic, but you run the risk of eventually of a hurricane. So I think we have to mitigate. We have to build infrastructure that supports getting through the extremes of weather. But the idea that we're contributing in some way and changing the weather to our detriment, I just don't buy into it. Now it is. I will add though, when you build up cities, you do change the local environment. We call that the urban heat island. So when you add asphalt and people and buildings and cars, those urban areas hold on to heat longer. And so we can change the local environment, but we'll also remember many of the weather observing stations are also in those urbanized areas, so they get skewed to warmer. When you look at the global view, where you're looking at stations and data from rural and suburban areas, you're not getting any kind of unusual warming. The climate will change. It gets a little warmer. It gets a little cooler. But we're misguided in this. Well, I guess what frustrates me the most is we're scaring young people. Young people have enough on their minds, the anxiety level, and I know this because in my family, we have professionals who deal with this. And the idea that we're just scaremongering folks in young people, telling them that 50 or 100 years from now, we're going to need Planet B because and none of these predictions, by the way, have yet to come true. And yet, while we're doing with the damage we're doing, there's enough anxiety for young people with so many other worldly things going on, and to add this to scare them about this just is, in my view, bordering on criminal. It's just. There's plenty for young people to worry about, but then adding the weight of, there's no Planet B, we have 5 years. How many times have I heard 5 years to save the planet? We've been hearing that for 30 years now from politicos and from media. It's just astonishing. They keep making these predictions and they keep pushing them forward because they have yet to come true.
Right. Well, it makes a story, whether it's a good story or not, or a bad story, or a relevant story. Now, one of the things, I took a lot of statistics in college, and one of the things is that correlation doesn't mean causation.
Yes.
If you can look at the statistics and you can see that shark bites go up with ice cream sales,
exactly.
right?
I know exactly what you're saying.
And the ice cream sale has nothing to do with the shark bites, right?
So
you're looking at this analysis, and they do it all the time. Well, there's a fire over there. Well, with global warming, it's blamed on everything.
Right.
It's the catch-all for everything that is happening in the environment. It seems as though global warming is the catch-all.
It's a Saturday Night Live sketch in before our eyes. There's research I tweeted out not too long ago. There was research that came out recently that, and I'm quoting now, I'm not quoting, I'm paraphrasing. This one research group came out recently that said, global warming is causing bird brains to grow larger. And I kid you not. But that's only half of it, Dom. And then other research from another media group, within the past year or two, global warming is causing bird brains to shrink. Okay, I kid you not, and I can provide that to you at some later point. It's in many cases it is so true. Follow the money, follow the money trail. It is just sometimes you can't make it up. Like I said, we should be good stewards of our planet, okay, and we should do all we can in our own world to take care of the planet. But the idea that there's some cataclysmic event on the way, as has been predicted for years now, it gets to the point of just tiresome, frankly.
Well, the thing, the way my mind goes, you say there's actually somebody spending their life measuring the size of bird brains.
I kid you not. That was reported. I don't remember. I can't speak to the exact, but I tweeted it out just a couple of weeks ago because it just was so hilarious. It was just so hilarious.
I don't know for a fact, but I would imagine it is a government funded.
Oh, most of them are.
Research.
Most of them are.
What do you do for a living, Daddy?
Yeah. No,
but anyway, So the way we were talking about before the show too, I had a friend of mine who had a fish tank when I was growing up next door, and you can't clean just part of the fish tank. I mean, it's got to be the whole fish tank. Right. So the way I look at it, and I think you were concurring with me on this thought. You have India and China, and if you know anything about people, the first thing they want to do is be able to live and eat, and those people that are in those countries are not really cognizant of, as we are, of this global warming thing, because they're trying to just support themselves. And if you don't get those countries on board, well, then why are you doing anything at all?
It is so true. I mean, when I saw last week that New York State is going after pizza ovens in New York City, that's the latest thing I heard. First it was the gas stoves. It's now pizza ovens. Well, I'm approximating here, but as I understand it, it would take the equivalent of burning 900 pizza ovens running continuously to equal the output of John Kerry's plane for a year. Okay, so the hypocrisy going on in this, the idea that New York State will change the world climate by limiting pizza ovens and gas stoves, when remember. But they forget to mention is going all electric. Where does electricity come from? And this is what drives me bonkers. It comes, from some geothermal, but it's mostly from coal and some nuclear. And I'm thinking, hello. But it is so ingrained now in the narrative of these activist scientists and activist politicians that they just don't want to hear about it. They just want to feel good. Well, we're going to ban the gas stoves. Well, guess what? And go electric. Well, let's see how that electric grid works 20 years from now, when people are driving cars on electric grid and you've got people whose homes depend on it. And guess what? What happens when the power goes out in the wintertime?
Well, it's this thing that we are doing things with this idea that is the moral pinnacle to do this, and we should try it. But in the end run, are you just chasing your tail?
You're just right. You just are, because China and India are not. They're building, what is it, a new coal-powered coal plant a week in China? Is it something like that? They're not, It's just,
yeah. So about ready to head into news break, and I'll probably have a couple more words for you to set you off like this when we get back. Well, welcome back. We're talking to Kevin Williams, the world famous, probably. Is that what you were talking about being on Long Island at 16 or 17 years old? I'm making you younger.
Thank you.
Right, no, 16.
Thank you.
But we're talking about his career, and one of the things I was saying is that he's generally a wonderfully liked guy. I mean, people listen to you, and I've seen you for years and whatever. But then I was thinking that you're not always liked because you testify in court cases as part of your forensic. Is that what they call it? Forensic
forensic meteorology. That's right.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So people are pretty accustomed to the idea of a meteorologist forecasting the weather on radio or TV. But in this case, what I do, I'm kind of like a weather sleuth. Mm-hmm. I am my company is called upon to research the past weather, kind of take what we know, putting together the pieces of a puzzle to determine what the weather was like in the past at a precise point in time at an exact location in order to lend support, whether it's plaintiff or defense, to their cause. And this would be a weather-related matter. For example, a very common one would be a slip and fall on snow or ice. So the determination needs to be made, was it icy that day or that night? If so, was there constructive notice for the defendant to take care of that ice? Or was there a storm in progress, which basically means there is no need or legal need to take care of that while a storm is underway? So you're right. I'm on the stand, and there's a jury, and there is the side that has retained me, and there's the other side who sometimes has a meteorologist as well. And what they'll try to do is, you get on and the attorney that's retained you has a series of questions, but then the other side, as you said, will then try and tear you down. So it's kind of a little battle, and you have to keep your cool. You have to always be honest and objective, and but they'll try and twist your words. That's their job.
That's right.
And they'll say, well, Mr. Williams, half hour ago you said it was this, and are you implying this? And then you have to bring them back, and say, no, actually, sir, or ma'am, what you're actually saying is not true. Here's why. But there are most of them are civil type actions, but sometimes you get criminal. And we've dealt with burglaries and those kinds of things, and those have involved tracking the defendant, whether there were prints in the snow, and determining how old was the snow, or was there fog which would have prevented them from reaching a destination which would confirm their place and time, and those kinds of things. It gets very involved, Dom, to the point where it almost leaves your head spinning when there's so many factors that come into play. But I'm retained. I'm always reporting it objectively, and then the attorney determines whether my objective findings will support their strategies in that particular matter.
Okay, that compels the question: has there ever been any one of these aha moments where the attorney says, "You're saying that," and you do you just nail the guy? I mean,
yes,
any of those that you can talk about?
I can't speak specific to a case, but I will tell you this. Oftentimes, if the attorney is, there's some really good attorneys out there, but once in a while you get a novice, or, shall we say?
Yes, okay.
And I remember one case where there was a woman was cross-examining me, and really had very little. I mean, sometimes they're really good, and they you got to really keep your on your game. She didn't have anything, so all she really had was, meteorologist Kevin Williams, you weren't there, when this, at the time and when this incident happened. And I would answer, no, ma'am, I wasn't. And she asked it a second time. And I said, no, actually, ma'am, if I was really that good a prognosticator, that I could predict a slip and fall and then be there when it happened, I would probably be, in Las Vegas playing the odds somewhere. But that's all she had. And the third and fourth time she said, well, let's remind everybody, you weren't there. And finally, the objection from the other attorney who retained me, it's asked and answered, but I could just see, she was struggling. She had really nothing else. And I kind of felt, in that case, badly, she had nothing.
This might kind of sound crazy, but this sounds like fun. I mean, you're getting paid to give an opinion, which is a professional opinion. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the way it comes out either way is not, you're not getting paid more. No. If your side wins,
right? To be very clear, right?
You're just there to give facts and figures.
I am paid to do research and to determine what the weather was. That's what it is.
Okay, which compels the other question: does somebody come in with a competitive weathercaster to
sure.
debunk you.
I have colleagues in the Rochester market. I'm the main go-to. Buffalo has a person actually, and Syracuse had one who just retired, and we know each other. We're friends, and we often, sometimes I will get a case for which I've already been retained, so I will give a reference to another colleague, and sometimes we'll go head to head. Only occasionally is it in an actual trial. Often these cases get settled before making it to trial, to be clear. But sometimes, yes, you go to trial, and frankly, sometimes the weather is not clear cut, and you could look at the objective data, but come up with honestly varying opinions on what was taking place. Sometimes because of the fact that the location is very remote, there is limited data, the weather pattern was very complicated. You can sometimes honest people can look at the data and come up with slightly varying opinions, and that does happen occasionally.
Well, there was no full moon that day.
Right. I mean, although that one, of course, you hopefully. But so and it's like I said, we're friends. So yes, we'll be competitors just as we are on television. But we do work. We've done work in Alabama, done work in New England, we've done work in a lot of different places, and in many cases, I know the local meteorologist, and once in a while, we do go head to head.
So the idea that you have it's not a consulting business. It's how would you describe it?
My company is WeatherTrack, and it's
WeatherTrack. Yes.
WeatherTrack, and I formed it as a senior at Cornell back forever ago, and so. Yeah, it's an incorporated business. We have several people that work with us doing things, doing mostly forecasting, and my company is retained, and I am the primary in the legal situation. I'm the primary forensic specialist in the company's work.
Well, and the other thing is you have your podcast or whatever. I mean,
yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Monday to Thursday at 5:00 Eastern time we gather, and it's kind of when my TV career when I left TV in 2017. There were enough people who were interested in following me that I said, I'm going to continue to do this, but on social media. And we've been doing it since then, 5:00. It's kind of like an expanded TV weathercast. I don't currently have sponsors, but it's been sponsored in the past. Will likely be sponsored again, but I do it mostly for the love of just communicating with the people that have followed me. And that's really what it is. And it also, though, here's the key, Dom.
What's that?
There are no overlords when I do what I do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
in TV, maybe we talk about it before we're done today. Yeah. There are many overlords overlooking everything you say and do and what you wear and how you look on the television. And I had to deal with them, and sometimes we did not get along. Yep. When you don't have any overlords, I get to say pretty much what I want. It's always honest. It's never obscene. It's just my opinions that dovetail into the weather, and there we do.
And I'm smiling right now because you and I live in the same place with that. I don't get free tickets. I don't ask for free tickets. I do what I want. I invite the guests that I want. If I don't think they're engaging or something that's not interested in me, I just move on to the next person and get fascinating people like you. And we're gonna talk more about you when we get back. Well, welcome back. We're listening to, we're talking with Mr. Kevin Williams, meteorologist extraordinaire, I think. I'm going to have a different title for you every time we come back. And we were talking a little bit before the show, too, about weather/journalism. How the business of journalism has changed. Everybody with an iPhone now is a journalist, right? And,
oh boy.
Yeah, it's kind of muddied the water a little bit.
It really has. It really has. I started my TV career after doing a little Ithaca College TV during my Cornell days. My first professional job was 1982 at Channel 13. Mm-hmm. And work with the little legends there like Don Alhart and Dick Burt and all the rest. And I learned a great deal. We had a solid, no-nonsense news director. And you'd like him. And, he pulled me aside. I was a kid. They came down. Actually, he and the GM drove down to Ithaca to offer me the job, which never would happen today. And it was Monday to Friday mornings. And he told me, look, Kevin, we're going to give you free reign. But we're going to expect some things from you. We're going to expect you to do your work honestly, to be diligent. And if there's heavy weather, I'm talking about, weather prediction. And if you see a storm coming and, we support you, we know you're not going to be right all the time, but we're going to expect you to give it you're 100% best and be objective. And my point in saying this is many years later at let's say a different station, there was a news director who called me into his office after my intro, my tease for the 5 o'clock news. And in the 5 o'clock news, I recall, it was in December, Dom, and I was talking about a little snow coming in. I said something to the effect of, could be an inch or two of snow tomorrow. We'll have the latest coming. And he didn't even wait for the newscast to be over. He summoned me during the commercial break into his office and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" "Well, we got snow coming. You're not playing it up enough. You're not. I kid you not, Dom. You're laughing. You're not playing it up enough. You're not giving it. You're not hitting it hard enough." I said, "Excuse me. What? This is Rochester. This is a couple inches of snow, and you're excoriating me because you're not playing it up enough." That, I think, is the epitome of where we've gone today. Now, it's not uniform. It's not everywhere, but journalism used to be the facts or honest reporting, and it still happens in places. I don't mind it. It's not uniform, but now in so many circles, though, it's become activism and advocacy, and the consultants have just ruined the business in some circles by all the key, the cookie cutter. Well, you're not, all these phrases, like breaking news. You ever see it's always breaking news. Yeah. Oh, we've got breaking news from the town board meeting 2 nights ago. Yeah. And that's where it's come down to. Now, there are still individuals doing great work, to be clear, and still some good stations, to be clear. But unfortunately, the overall tenor of the business has become shock, clickbait. It's and I see it now going back to the global warming stuff. It's all, we're doomed, and film at 11. So I'm lucky to have been in the business during the end of the golden era, and I'm really, frankly, people ask me if I miss it. I miss some of my colleagues, but I still keep in touch with many of them. But I don't miss the overall business as it exists today. I just don't.
It's funny you should mention that, because Nita and I watch, the weathercast, and it seems like there's so many more predicted disasters now. There's going to be a snow Armageddon. Well, and tune it at 11, and the next day it's 2 inches of snow.
Yeah, now, mind you,
it doesn't really attract people when you say there's going to be 2 inches of snow.
Well, that's the problem. And mind you, many of the meteorologists in town are friends of mine, and they're good people. And they do good work, but they're again they're still under the duress of the overlords, the mismanagers and the clueless consultants, and so they have to do. They have to code the colors of the day based on how bad. Is it a red alert, a yellow alert, purple alert? They have to do the consultants love all these graphics. So it's your dog walking forecast, and it's your mowing the lawn forecast. But it's the weather. They just want it packaged so it's like something special. But it's become almost cartoonish. And again, not because of most of the people I know in this market. I think they're just having to go with the flow as best they can, and I credit them for doing that. I am glad, though, I don't have to do that.
Okay, Tell me about a forecast you really blew.
Well, I'll tell you, back in 1962, Dom, I missed the high temperature by a couple degrees.
Well, you were
on that Saturday
at Comac High School.
Right, I was only 4 years old at the time.
Yeah, no, come on.
Let me tell you.
I don't put people on the spot on this show until now. Tell me one you blew.
Well, I remember one who I remember a phone call I got. Well, yeah, this was back some years ago, and it was a call on a Saturday. I was working the weekend. And it was in March of 1991. And it would have been March 2nd, 1991. I got a call. There were severe storms. But I also felt that there was going to be significant icing the next day.
In March?
Okay. 1991. And I took a call from an irate lady who said, "You were scaring the dickens out of us." Well, of course, in that case, this is one of the better forecasts. That was the ice storm of 91.
Right.
Now, have I blown forecasts? You bet I have. We all have. I'm trying to think what would be the most significant. I remember we had a new news director coming in, and I thought there would be a big weekend storm, and we brought in people, we brought in facilities. And it turned out from one of those deals where we missed the rain snow line by a little bit, and we got like an inch of sleet instead of 10 inches of snow. And so, but he took it, fairly well. I thought, great impression I just made on the new news director. But that happens. And I remember one case where a woman said, this was after a summer weekend, she called up and said, "Is this Mr. Williams?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, Mr. Williams, do you know it rained all weekend?" I said, "Well, yes, ma'am, I do. I believe our staff said that it was going to rain most of the weekend." And then she said, "I know that. I'm just so tired of this weather." And then she went on for like a minute and a half telling me why she doesn't like so, okay, I guess I'll drop a note to the person upstairs and see if we can change the weather.
You know what I like about this last question I asked you, though, and this is really good. This is really astute. I have so much respect for you for this, because I asked you what's one that you blew, and then you start off on March 2nd, 1991. I predicted the ice storm. Well, that's not one you blew. That is a success that you had, and you snuck that in there. This is really brilliant.
Well, only because
this is brilliant.
I remember being excoriated by viewers on that
until it happened. And then you were the hero because
I don't know about that,
whatever.
But it was it's ingrained in the mind. But let me be clear. Before I have to leave you, I've made. I've had horrible forecasts.
Well, we're friends. We're friends, so I can tease you.
Yeah, okay. Just to be clear,
You
nobody is perfect. We are all subject, and nobody in my business that I know can say they haven't really blown some big time forecasts, and that includes me.
Oh, that's me with car deals and my life, my life all told, and my lack of friends. I mean, so many different things that I can be held responsible for. So we have about a minute or two left. So let's talk about a little retail. How do people get in touch with you? And how do we sell some stuff so you can support yourself?
Oh, I appreciate that. If we have attorneys listening, many of them know I am available through my website, weathertrack.com, with a little hyphen between weather and track. Twitter, Weather by Williams is my handle. Surprise, surprise. But weather is WX to fill in the limited space by Williams. And then on Facebook, Monday to Thursday, 5 o'clock, we shoot the breeze for about 20 minutes.
We shoot the breeze.
Like that, Tom?
Yeah, I like
Marketing
it.
guy.
Yeah,
we shoot the breeze, and you're welcome to join in. You can, it's interactive, unlike in the TV world, so you can actually ask questions, and I try and answer them. And I hope to be doing that for some years to come.
Well, it's delightful having you on the show. You're a good friend. You're entertaining and engaging, and I always learn something. And thank you ever so much for coming in and spending time with me, because I just, like I said when I met you at the door, you're one of my favorite mammals.
You did say that. I said, okay. Well, I'm honored to be invited back another time. So thank you.
Okay, and until next week, it's the No Nonsense Roundtable, 10 a.m. right here on News Radio Wham 1180.
Thanks for listening. Tune in 10 a.m. Saturdays on News Radio Wham 1180 or stream at wham1180.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll make more.